This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with SP Sports. We're delighted to join by the very first time by Tommy Hyde. How are you, Tommy?
I'm very good now. Thanks. Thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be on it.
It's a long time coming, obviously. We're sort of going to touch into it as we sort of come, but I guess anybody sort of watching, you know, you're living the lifestyle, you're doing your interviews and I believe in your own gym close to your home.
Yeah, the gym is just down the road from the house, 2 minutes from the house. So training every day, and just getting ready for the next fight.
Eat, sleep, box, and repeat. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the way it has been now since I'm seven. Like so, hasn't changed, and it's not going to change anytime soon.
Sort of you bring me on to my sort of first point, I guess, but anybody we sort of like to bring on for the first time, we sort of like to sort of delve into the career. I guess sometimes a lot of why you get into boxing and everything else gets forgotten about. So age 7 was when it first started out for you.
Yeah, I first started when I was seven. I went into the boxing club down in Mahon. My dad was helping out with a white collar show. He obviously boxed when he was younger and packed it up for a few years, and he's kind of stayed away from boxing until he started helping out with the white collars then, and that's kind of when I first started going in around the gyms and stuff, and then we started going to the shows, Brian Peters shows up in Dublin and Castlebar and stuff like that, and kind of started getting hooked in on the atmosphere, and it was just unreal. Like I couldn't get enough of it at the time. Still can't get enough of it at the minute, but that was the start of it. Yeah.
So I guess obviously you're everybody sort of is involved in boxing. Obviously knows who your dad is. Obviously he's managed some of the best sort of fighters and stuff at this, Rigondeaux and things like that at stages. Was was it easy for you? I guess with your father being involved in the sport, was it easy for you to really fall in love with it very early on, or was it sort of left under your own guidance to see if you liked it or not?
Yeah, he leaves it up to me. Like he wasn't going to force me to box, but I'd say he'd nearly rather if I didn't box over the all the nerves it brings him and all that. But like it was easy to fall in love with when you're being brought to these big shows all over the world and you're just meeting all these stars and all this. But that made it easy. And then just loved the feeling of boxing anyway. Just the after winning a good fight and after being in a good fight, even it's just unbelievable feeling. Like so, just love it.
So it's pretty much it's just been a love affair. It sort of started since the first time you laced the gloves up. Then
Yeah, just since the start. I remember my first fight when I was 11, and just having the atmosphere, and there was probably only about 100 people at that, and just having my uncles and my cousins and stuff like that at it, and just unbelievable buzz at fighting, and just being in a good fight. I love being in a good fight and getting the crowd going. That's what I love about boxing. Like.
I guess obviously being and growing up, I was around the sport and everything else. How would you sort of whenever you first started out? Who did you want to be like? Who were you sort of trying to copy? When you were sparring and everything else. Who did you want to be when you were 7 years of age as a boxer?
I kind of looked up to all the Irish stars at the time, and John Duddy was making big names, and Macklin and Bernard Dunn. They were all the big names that we were going to see in Ireland. And then as it went on, then I was watching Rigondeaux and other guys that my dad was managing at the time, and I was just kind of looking up to everyone. There wasn't one specific, but I was looking up to everyone, just loving the good fights. Felix Trinidad is my all-time favorite. I always love watching him and Kelly Pavlik. They're the ones never got to see him or meet him. They're probably one of the only few that I haven't met, but they're my favorites. I love watching them.
And sort of like early days of sort of boxing as well. I guess being involved heavy in a family of boxing and everything else. How did you find the early days? Whenever you had your first fight and stuff at 11, how did you find it? Was it I guess they say you love boxing sometimes until you get punched in the face. Obviously, the early days, growing up at 11 onwards. How did you find sort of just an indie boxing? Did you find sort of days you're going, I want to do a different sport? Was it always just you just knew what you had to do to get there?
Like you just have to set your goals. I had my goal when I was 11 was to win an Irish title, and I got beat. I was getting beat close in close decisions for the first like 3 or 4 years, and then those guys were going on to win All Ireland. So that was killing me at the time. And I think I was 16 when I won my first Irish cadet title, and jeez, that was unbelievable. That feeling, like just I was jumping around the ring with joy after it, and it was probably one of my best days so far as a boxer. Like,
Because I guess, we see sometimes, particularly with amateur boxing, the younger stages now, some people get through stages without ever having to get the box, maybe not people to wait. You've obviously had the experience loss early on, and as obviously a teenager and everything else. How did you find adjusting with a loss? Did you find, I guess, you can either be a good loser or a bad loser. There's either the judges robbed me, I didn't put it in my best. How did you find sort of that adjustment?
yeah, it was grand. Like, first few years when you're getting into boxing and stuff, you're looking at the counties and the Munster championships, and if you lose them, if it's a year until the next time you're looking to be Irish champion. So it's the next time you get a chance to win that, and it feels like at the time a year was like feels like a lifetime. But I always remember my dad saying to my trainer at the time, John Donovan, "Sure, a year. Next thing you know, a year I'll be here again. We'll be back there, and next of all, you're back into your Munsters and then." It was you just have to that's sport, like, isn't it? You have to take the wins with the losses, and sometimes the judges don't get it right. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of not there's a lot of people, but there's a couple of fellas never lose a fight. They're always getting robbed, but everyone gets a bad decision now and again. Like, but it's not the best part of boxing, but you just have to get on with it.
And I guess obviously having success at 16, then did that sort of reinvigorate new confidence into you, that you obviously now were achieving what you wanted to as a youngster, and getting that success? How did that help bring you on to the next level? I guess, like, it's only 7 years ago pretty much, so it's not like it was a long time ago, but did that then reinvigorate you? Like, what stage then did you decide that you wanted to become a pro?
Uh, since I was 7, I wanted to become a pro. But when I started off, or when I won the All Irelands at 16, I went into the World Junior Championships. Then I won 2 fights. I got beat for a medal, so I was ranked number 5 in the world, and I was getting great kind of recognition at home in Cork. And that was kind of that you're kind of proud then. You're 16 years old, but you're very proud of what you're after achieving already, and you just kind of want to keep pushing on and go for better things then.
Did you never, I guess, we're seeing quite a lot of, and I guess the scrutiny around obviously the Olympics and everything else, 2028 doesn't look like it's going to happen. 2024 still sort of touch and go. Did you never have obviously plans to stay in amateur long term, and looking at the Olympics, or was it because you're always around professional boxing, that's all you ever thought of?
Well, Tokyo Olympics was my goal, and then turn professional after that. But I didn't get to Tokyo, so it was to go pro then. But I was kind of waiting to stay on and try win an elite title, and I came up short in the last elite. So I just felt like it was the right time to turn pro. Then I'm 23 now, so I'm after getting about over 100 amateur fights, and I'm after fighting all over the world anyway. So I'm after gaining great experience against top class boxers, like. So I'm ready to push on.
COVID sometimes sort of helps with that as well. I guess obviously COVID sort of changed the landscape for a lot of people, was it? And I guess when you're probably lucky, obviously, that you didn't turn pro earlier because you maybe had less fights, time between fights. Obviously, 2022 was probably one of the most challenging probably years for you. You were set up to obviously make your dream debut in Cork, and obviously for anybody that doesn't know, obviously, can you let people know obviously what happened to you in April?
Yeah, so I was training for 7 weeks over in Boston, getting ready for my debut in Cork. And on the Tuesday before the debut, there was findings in my MRI scan, and I was told that I'd never box again, and that I should probably take up golf or something, some non-contact sport. So, as you can imagine, I was heartbroken, and I don't know how serious this could be, or I don't know what was next. Like, so we kind of had a few days, and then my dad said we'll have to go get a second opinion on this. So we went up to Dublin. We went to 2 different neurologists in Dublin, and the first neurologist said that after 6 months, he says it's not as serious as they're after making it out to be. But after 6 months, I want you to come back with another MRI scan, and once that's okay, you're good to go. And then I went to the other neurologist, just for a third opinion then, and he took all my bloods. I got a lumbar puncture, and he was happy with all that. So then they both came together, and they said that you're good to box. I have to get a brain scan like every other boxer every year. I'm not in any more risk than anyone. So I was just delighted. First I thought my health was at risk, and now boxing was at the back of my mind then. But once I was given the go ahead, I was delighted. I kind of knew everything was going to be okay after I met the neurologist first, and I was training every day for the 8 months. I was down here in the gym, and no date in sight, but I just stayed dedicated and I kept positive about it. Like,
I guess it can be worrying for you as well, particularly when obviously you fail medicals and they think there may be something wrong with you. You know, there's nothing more important than life itself. And when you were hearing that sort of news and everything else, you were going, you know, your dreams have obviously been a boxer. Connor Quinn obviously was through something similar recently as well. He'd already had a few fights, and then he was like, I can't fight, I can't fight. That's just all I live for. You know, boxing's your life. It was obviously very challenging and probably very mentally tough for you as well. Going through sort of what you were going through at that stage.
yeah, the first couple of weeks especially were very tough. The first when I found out that was 4 days before the fight, I just got my kit for the fight and I was raring to go. And I came into my dad up in the bar, my mom and dad, and they told me what was going on. And geez, I was like, couldn't believe it. It was just like the worst news I could get. But thankfully, that's all behind me now, and I'm ready to take on now. We're delighted to get a good debut in December now, and ready for a big year ahead now.
So obviously, in terms of obviously getting that news, then obviously from your mum and dad, were you probably more devastated you weren't going to make your debut in Cork 4 days later, or was it more? Were you thinking more along the lines of that, or more along the lines of I'm not going to fight?
A bit of both. I was heartbroken just in general. We were nearly sold out for Cork, and there was a great buzz around the place. Our pub is only 2 minutes from where the venue for the fight was, so there was a great buzz around the place. All the lads would let me know that they were buying tickets and they were supporting me, and it was unreal. And then when you're told you're not fighting and that, first you're saying, "Oh, you're disgusted," like, but then you're thinking long term, like they're saying you're not going to box again and all this. So uh, just in general, I was just heartbroken over the whole situation.
And I'm sure you've probably seen quite a bit of it, and been involved in the sport for a long time. You've seen so many things can go wrong. Up until sometimes you put the gloves on and you're in the ring, you're never guaranteed a fight. So, like, I guess obviously you're able to touch on your dad's influence. Obviously, been involved in the sport for a long time. I'm sure, obviously, your friends and your family and stuff were there to pick you up, and particularly with your dad being involved and getting you the second and third opinions. I sure it was a relief to know you were going to do box again.
Oh, it was unreal. Like I found out in I think it was October, around October time when I found out that everything was 100% okay, and it was on like a Tuesday, and the Wednesday I was back sparring. So I had an hour to get a spar organised before people began to bed and stuff like. So Wednesday morning I was sparring again, so I was straight back into it.
I seen a clip funny on Instagram last week. I think somebody was saying was my coach told me there's people around my weight sparring, and there's a guy running up
Yeah,
with his things, and all.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you were like. It was like get me a spar, you
yeah.
know.
Ready to go straight away. Ready to go.
But I guess obviously when you sort of you've now made your debut as well. I guess it's probably not in the dream scenario you wanted, but obviously you can now call yourself a professional boxer. What does that sort of do for you? I guess obviously after the year you sort of had, do you appreciate it probably more now to know that I'm now a pro, I've made my debut, and you made your debut with a stoppage one as well. So what a way to highlight yourself in after what you've been through this year or last
Yeah,
year,
it
even
was.
2022.
Yeah, yeah. It was no, it was a good start. It was still a great buzz over in South Dakota. Uh, my cousin came over from Boston as well, and he's a fanatic boxing fan. So we still had a great buzz. There was a couple of hundred people staying up at home to watch it. That was like 3 in the morning, and I still felt the support from back home. Just unreal buzz, and I had a tough enough opponent as well. He had a right go, so it was a great learning fight, and just delighted with the whole experience.
Is that the way you sort of want to have it? Say your opponent with Jerry Cota was 3-3. Is that the sort of way you don't want to go down the route of obviously facing journeyman with 100 losses and hardly a win?
No,
Is that the way you want it? You want to be challenged right from the very start so that you can imprint yourself into the sport.
yeah, no, I don't want pointless fights. You know what I mean? I just want to keep progressing nicely and then build up the titles. And hopefully, at the end of this year, we can start looking at titles. And we want to be bringing fights back to Cork as well. So we'd like to get one or two fights in Cork this year.
And I guess when you're through obviously everything you've been through and the fact of obviously your MRI issues, You then get the good news you're back. You obviously have your first fight. You think that's it. That's it. All the bad luck's gone. You go to Dubai. You're obviously supposed to fight in Dubai, and then it happens again. It's like, can you nearly expect things like that to happen in the sport? I know there's quite a lot still going on with it. Like the promoters just sort of done a bunk and left everybody to it to pay for the hotels and everything else. Were you sort of having to? Is it just one of them you have to laugh moments?
Yeah, I'm after seeing all this before with some of my dad's boxers when you don't know the fight's happening until the two boxers are in the ring. Things can happen at the weigh-in, and you hear mad stories all the time. But it was my first time seeing something mad like this now, and uh, we got there on a Tuesday. The Wednesday night they were changing the fight to Friday, so I'd have to weigh in on the Thursday. Then they changed it 2 hours later to the Tuesday, and then the next day it was cancelled. So it was all like a big mix-up, and it was crazy. Like they brought us over in business class flight, so we were living the life, and over to Dubai for a nice fight before Christmas, 2-0 before Christmas, and but the fight was cancelled. I got a nice 2 day break out of it in the end. First few days couldn't enjoy it because it was a bit stressful, but the last 2 days were nice.
It's definitely nice to get a break. And I say, obviously, like, what was Christmas like then for you? I guess it was a different Christmas. Obviously, Christmas previously, you're preparing obviously to make your debut. You've obviously now made your debut and everything else, and you have a fight obviously coming up. How was Christmas like for you? Just was it just a normal? You can treat yourself a wee bit, or were you sort of having to watch what you're putting in, or just having to work harder afterwards?
It was all right. I was 18 away, and I train hard as well, so I'm not bad on the weight. We've the pub in Cork as well, so I had to do a couple of hours there, so I didn't get away with that. But I get my mum and dad look after me there. My mum looks after the roster, so she gives me a few handy shifts. So I'm well looked after.
Well, fantastic. And like, I guess when you sort of, as you'll get more into the professional thing as well, I guess, the bar work will eventually go. You'll be away from the bar, but I guess it'll be a good thing for people to know if we're looking for Tommy Hyde, we know where he's at. He's going to be in the bar, and it'll not be drinking; it'll be behind the bar serving the drink.
Yeah, that's it. I enjoy the bar work, but maybe 2 days a week I do at the minute, and it's grand for me. Training wise, it's easy to work that. Like, so it's easy work, and all the lads up there are sound as well, so I get on well with all of them.
I guess it's a good thing as well, particularly if you're going to be fighting in Cork and stuff as well. Like, obviously, rather having to go and meet people on the street and stuff to get tickets, just come to the
Yeah,
bar and then you can hopefully get a couple of pound out of them as well for a pint.
yeah. Like that's where we were selling tickets for the when the debut was supposed to be in April. They were you could buy them at the bar, so they were nearly sold out anyway. There was only like 3 days left, and they were nearly gone. So they would have been sold out, but we'll get that again in the summer.
Is that when he's a Raymond? Obviously, now potentially they have the next one. Is to have the homecoming show in the summer. Where would you like to sort of be by that stage? Obviously, with your fight now in a couple of weeks' time, you maybe aiming to have a few more between now and the summertime before having a homecoming.
Yeah, I'd fight every week if I could, and yeah, hopefully just maybe 4 or 5 fights by the summer, and then get ready for a big fight then in Cork.
Is it a dream or the idea? Obviously, maybe potentially, fighting for a title in your homecoming. Is that maybe made your debut maybe better? The fact that now headlining your own show at home, but obviously fighting for a title. Is that the idea you have behind that?
No, like whatever happens, I'm not I just want to fight in Cork. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's going to be big titles coming to Cork in the next couple of years anyway, so I'm not in a rush to be fighting for titles or whatever. Just once I'm fighting at home, I'll be happy then.
And what's the weight you're ideally going to campaign at? Obviously, sometimes you're a few pound over where you ideally want to be. Is it going to be light heavy? Are you going to be super middleweight? Where are you aiming at campaigning?
I was like 177 pounds for my debut, so I was close enough to 175 like heavyweight limit. So that's comfortable enough. So we'll see. Maybe down the road I might go down to the super middle, but for now anyway, I'm at light heavy.
And what I'm guessing, obviously, you keep an eye on the domestic scene and stuff, everything else. I've obviously just done an interview there just before yourself with Jamie Morrissey, who fights Kevin Cronin for the light heavyweight Celtic title in 4 weeks' time. Do you sort of keep an eye, I guess, on the domestic scene to see who potentially could be an opponent, down the line for you?
Yeah, I'm a boxing fan, so I watch all the fights, especially when there's Irish lads fighting. And I sparred Kevin. I've done hundreds of rounds with Kevin. I'm always sparring Kevin because he's so close. I sparred Jamie, I think once or twice up in a tie. So that's going to be a brilliant fight. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm really looking forward to that fight. So yeah, I'm keeping an eye on all of them anyway. So who knows what can happen down the road.
And I guess when anybody's sort of looking at Croke Park this year, obviously with your dad's ties and stuff and everything in boxing, is there a potential obviously fighting in Croke Park? Your dad's well known in the boxing scene and everything else. Is he going to be able to pull any strings and get you on the undercard of Katie Taylor?
It'd be a nice one anyway. But everyone's shouting to get on it, so it'd be a nice one. But we'll see. Hopefully.
As I say, it's a good one to have sometimes, and obviously your dad's been involved in the sport. He can make a few phone calls and and soften the deal. I guess that's looking after the son and looking after the prospect, obviously for Cork for the future to come as well.
Yeah, we definitely bring a couple of hundred people up to Crow Park anyway. That's without a doubt. But everyone, as I said, everyone's looking to get on it. So we just have to wait and see. It might be an opportunity for me if it pops up. I'll definitely take it. It'll be unreal to fight on that show.
And there seems to be a resurgence, obviously, of Cork professional boxing as well. Obviously, it's Spike O'Sullivan there for years. You have obviously yourself and Cathal Crowley and Stephen
Stephen Cairns and Callum
Stephen
Walsh
Stephen Cairns and Callum Walsh.
and
Callum Walsh
and
is
Danny
flying in
Keaton.
America.
Yeah, all the lads. It's great to see Cork boxing. A high tide raises all ships. So as we all keep progressing, like it's good for all of us. We're all starting off well anyway. So long may it continue.
It seems to be obviously Limerick's had a big raise and stuff as well. Cork's obviously
Mm-hmm.
having a raise. It seems to be, I don't know whether it's because of everything that's going on in amateur box at the moment that people are moving across, and it's good when you can have some people similar to yourself and moving through, because there'll be even more big nights in Cork. Your dad doesn't have to put on the show potentially for you to be on it, so it works good from both ways.
Yeah, like as I said, once we all keep progressing, then hopefully there's going to be huge shows in Cork. We can all be big names here, like so. It'll be brilliant to see everyone coming on together.
And obviously, just finally, and obviously, because I know it's don't want to keep you obviously too long and everything else, but where do you sort of envisage obviously a career? What have you sort of set yourself in obviously short, medium, and long term sort of goals in the sport?
Like I'd like to go the traditional route with the Irish title and European title, and then world titles. Then that's always been my goal, is world champion. Like I'll keep working hard every day, keep progressing, and keep improving every day, and I'll get there.
And in terms of a dream venue, do you obviously look at like a big football stadium, obviously, in Cork, or do you look at obviously big venues in America, the likes of Madison Square Gardens? Where is your ideal venue to fight at? Where do you have on your list to tick off?
Yeah, be on like everywhere. I want to fight everywhere. Vegas, I was listening to Ricky Hatton podcast today, and he's on about the nights in Vegas, the night when he fought Madison Square Garden and bringing all them fans and then fighting in Manchester City Arena. Like that's what I want at home. I want a big show at home, and then fighting. I'm going to build a big base in Boston, and hopefully we can have something big there, and then on the East Coast, and then who knows what's after that. Then
Do
sky's the
you,
limit.
are you sort of going to mix it between obviously at home and in Boston then as well? Obviously, one or two fights a year in Cork and obviously fights in Boston, build it on both sides of the Atlantic.
Yeah, build it everywhere. It doesn't, not just America and Ireland, everywhere. So as we were trying in Dubai, we were supposed to get another like 2 or 3 fights there, but obviously they're not going to happen now. But who knows? We could be fighting anywhere.
As I guess it's boxing sometimes could be a circus. Sometimes you nearly go, I've got all these venues I want to fight in, but at the same time, sometimes you have what can go wrong. What can go wrong? Like an opponent doesn't make weight, or they miss their plane. There's so many different excuses out there. It's like when you went to school and you're like, hey, I don't have my homework, my dog at it. There's so many excuses can happen in the sport. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously, when I finally leave it, then obviously, I guess, in boxing, sometimes it's very tough to keep going unless you have, any good sponsors and stuff behind you. Do you obviously have any sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to? Have you obviously any sponsor spaces moving forward?
no, I've no sponsors at the minute, but if anyone wants to get on the team, sure, they can give me a text on message on Instagram and Facebook and all that. So yeah, I have no sponsors at the minute, but plenty of spaces available.
I'm sure when people in Cork hear, you know, that obviously you get no sponsorship, your door is going to keep knocking for a week.
Yeah. No, I'm lucky that I've Hannah Bonds, our pub is backing me all the time, and everyone in there, everyone that drinks there is always support me and always showing me unbelievable support. They're all buying tickets for my fight to come watch me fight, and that's all hard-earned money that they're spending on me. Like, and I really appreciate that.
And obviously in your fight in a couple of weeks' time, then obviously are you looking for another stoppage win? You know, have you got an opponent lined up yet for that, or is it still sort of trying to work an opponent out?
I don't think there's an opponent yet, but we're always looking for stoppage wins. Everyone wants to see the knockouts, and that's what I'm coming for. I'm coming to bring the knockouts and put on exciting performances.
Definitely as well. Tom, I will say it's a pleasure, obviously, to have you on finally for the first time. It's another one we can tick off the list. To say it's another boxer we have. We'll obviously, like ever, obviously keep in regular contact with you, and I'm sure we'll hopefully get another interview started with you soon and see how things are going.
Brilliant, Steve.
All
Yeah,
right,
brilliant,
Tom.
Steve. Thanks very much for having me on.
Not a problem. Thanks for your time and all
Cheers.
the best in Boston.
Thank you.
All right, cheers. Thank you. Thanks. Bye
On the
bye.
ball,
Bye
Steve.
bye. Bye bye.
Nice one.